So, welcome everyone to this edition of Stories for Healing. Uh, I'm really pleased in a way to be able to say that we've entered our third calendar month of this program, something that started in the end of October, and now here we find ourselves in December. And in one way, that's really good because I think people have shown an interest and they're coming to listen to stories, and there's really some benefit coming from that, both for us as the storyteller and hopefully for you as the listener. It's also a little discouraging, of course, because they're still so needed. There's still so much division and stress, but there's always a story, and there's always a story to be told. Still, stories that'll help us heal or reconcile or grow. So I'm glad to have you with us. I'm especially glad to welcome again uh, Rebecca Lemaire, who has a story for us today. So, Rebecca, please tell us a story.
Thank you, Jim. So this story comes from Kabylia, north of Algeria. Long, long, long ago, when the world was still new and fresh and humans had only just arrived, tears did not exist. They say that humans and animals and nature, they lived in peace and harmony. They talked to each other, they understood each other. But then came the day when humans decided they wanted to dominate nature, animals. Little by little, they stopped talking to trees, to birds. They stopped listening. Envy and jealousy grew. Humans tried to enslave each other, and hatred settled in, and war broke out. So came the day when a little boy was orphaned. They say that he was the first orphan in the world, wandering the world alone, abandoned. You see, the other people, they were just too deep in their own pain and grief to even notice him. But the little boy, he didn't cry because tears did not exist. One night, he was walking across an empty field, alone as usual, and he felt like he was going to burst with all of this loneliness and sorrow inside of him, all bottled up. And from above, the moon saw him, and she felt his grief. She decided to come down and help. So she traveled down through the sky. The little boy was in awe, looking at this being in front of him, but still choked by all this sadness, he was unable to say a word. But the moon looked at him and said, "Look, inside of you there is so much grief and pain. But do you know that there's something else inside you? A river. Yes, a river. And you can let the pain and the heartache travel on that river and let the river out through your eyes. Cry, my child." And so the orphan tried to feel the river, to cry, but he didn't know how to. And the moon came closer, and she hugged the boy and held him tightly against her. And the little boy felt the river inside him, hugged by the moon. He felt the river rise, well up, come through his throat, and it started coming out through his eyes. Just a few tears to begin with, and then a trickle, and then it started flowing. Hugged by the moon, the orphan, he cried and he cried and he cried. He cried his eyes out, and he felt the river washing all of the sadness away. And he cried and he cried and he cried until he felt lighter and even felt a little smile on his lips. The moon moved away, and she asked him, "How were you feeling?" "Better," he said. He could talk now. And the moon said, "Well, now you have a job to do. You must go back to the humans and tell them about the river. Show them how to cry." And the moon went back up into the sky. And the little boy, blessed by the moon and with a lighter step now, he walked towards the villagers. And there he told the humans about the river. He taught them how to cry. He hugged them when it was needed. And a bit of compassion started coming back into the world. And in Kabylia, in the north of Algeria, they say that those patches that you see on the moon at night, they are the marks of the tears of that orphan as he cried, hugged by the moon. They are the marks of the first tears of humanity. So next time you feel that you can no longer bear the grief and the sadness and the pain, look up at the moon and remember its gift and let the river out. Cry.
Oh, another beautiful story. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thanks.
As I was listening, a question was forming for me, which is why the moon? And then you told the part of, about the tears on the moon's surface, which gives one beautiful answer. But why do you think the moon is the agent of this in this story?
Well, I think generally the moon is linked to emotions, to water.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was quite natural when I heard it. I studied a lot of yoga, and it kind of fits with the whole characteristics of the moon energetically. Yeah.
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 I know for me it also is the moon is something that changes, is restored. You know, it goes through loss and restoration, renewal over and over.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we accomplish with our tears as well, is that acknowledge the loss, and we can be restored, but we're not. We'll lose again. We'll lose again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, folks, if you ever wonder about why we do this, I think you've just had an example. Thank you for coming to another episode of Stories for Healing. I want to invite you to come back, share the stories that you hear with others, whether you share them by way of Facebook or YouTube, or maybe you tell some stories to people and help them through whatever challenges they're facing or you're facing, because telling stories is a great way to accomplish that. Look for us again on YouTube or Facebook, and can't wait to see you next time. Thanks.